Yuji Itadori had a quirk. Now, I was wondering what quirk should I give him, since on my main channel, I did similar to this kind of video, the anime feed, where I just do a bunch of Demon Slayer what-ifs. Anyway, so I decided to give him the One for All quirk, since first of all, that's one of the most powerful quirks possible. It changes a lot too, since the All for One quirk wouldn't really work in this world, since there aren't other quirk users for him to steal from. And if we gave him all the quirks that All for One had, it would just be too much to put into the story. So in this timeline, Yuji already inherits One for All before the series begins, and he starts off only able to use around 5 to 10% of its power. Now normally, One for All would destroy the user's body, especially with multiple quirks inside it, but none of that really applies to Yuji. This is because Yuji Itadori is already built different, since he's a perfect vessel for Sukuna, meaning his body can handle insane levels of power without breaking. So because of that, One for All doesn't kill him off early, and instead just boosts everything he can already do. So let's get right into the timeline. Now we start at the beginning of the introduction and finger arc. Megumi goes to Yuji's high school to find a cursed object, which is Sukuna's finger. Yuji is just living a normal life with his friends, but even here, he is already different. With One for All, his strength and speed are way higher than normal, and Megumi notices this right away, since Yuji is moving and reacting way faster than a normal human should, even without using cursed energy. Curses show up at the school because of the finger, and Yuji's friends are in danger. Yuji steps in and uses a small amount of One for All, around 5%, moving faster than the curses and hitting much harder than before, but still not fully in control of it. Even Megumi is surprised at how strong Yuji already is without proper training. To save everyone, Yuji still eats Sukuna's finger. Now he has both Sukuna and One for All inside him. Sukuna takes over for a moment, but immediately notices this strange power inside Yuji that isn't cursed energy. Yuji quickly takes control back, showing how strong his will is, but now there's a clear setup that Sukuna is aware of One for All. Gojo arrives, handles the situation, and takes Yuji to Jujutsu High. He sees right away that Yuji is not normal, and now his potential is even higher with One for All added on top of everything else. Yuji joins the school and starts his new life as a Jujutsu sorcerer alongside Megumi. Then Nobara Kugasaki is introduced as the third first year. She meets Yuji and Megumi and shows her confident attitude right away. To test them, Gojo sends Yuji and Nobara on a mission while he and Megumi stay outside. They enter a building to deal with a cursed spirit, but the fight gets dangerous quickly. Nobara holds her own, but the curse tries to overwhelm her. This is where things change. Yuji uses One for All in short bursts, still around 5 to 10%, boosting his speed and power. He steps in when Nobara is in danger, saves her, and lands strong hits that push the curse back, but you can tell he's still adjusting to using this power in actual combat. The fight ends faster than normal, but not completely effortless. Yuji takes control of the battle while Nobara supports him, and together they finish the mission clean. By the end, Nobara respects Yuji, and it is clear that with One for All, Yuji has already changed how strong this team really is, but he still has a lot to learn before mastering this power. Now we move into the curse building and first mission mini arc. Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara are sent to the detention center, and their job is to check for survivors and deal with whatever is inside. Things go bad fast. The curse is way stronger than expected, and just like in the original, they get split up while Megumi and Nobara fall back. Yuji ends up facing the curse alone, and the fight plays out similar at first. The curse overwhelms him, and Yuji still gets his hand cut off during the fight, putting him in a bad spot. But this is where things change. Yuji already has way better control over One for All than Midoriya did at the start. He uses it in short bursts through the fight, boosting his speed and power without losing control, but he is still not fully used to pushing it too far. Then Yuji gets serious. He starts pushing One for All higher than before, going past his safe limit into around 30 to 40%. His body starts taking damage from the strain, but he forces himself forward and runs straight at the curse. He throws a full power punch, his arm taking massive damage from the force, but the hit lands clean and heavily damages the curse instead of instantly one-shotting it. The curse is still alive, but now it is weakened enough for Yuji to finish it off with a few more hits. After the fight, Megumi comes back, but this time Sukuna never fully takes over, so the Sukuna versus Megumi fight never happens. Yuji stays in control the whole time, barely holding himself together after pushing his limit. Even though Yuji won, his body is messed up, his hand is gone, and his arm is badly damaged. Inside his mind, Sukuna still appears, but instead of stepping in to fight, he is more interested in the power Yuji is using. He laughs and decides to heal Yuji's hand and arm, not out of kindness, but because he wants to see how far Yuji can go with this new power. Yuji wakes up fully healed, which shocks Megumi, but now it makes it even clearer how dangerous Yuji really is as a vessel. After this, they return, and the higher-ups still see Yuji as a problem that needs to be dealt with. But Gojo steps in like always, and now he has even more more reason to keep Yuji alive because of how fast he is growing. Since Yuji never dies here, the secret training arc does not happen the same way, but Gojo still decides to train him anyway. He knows Yuji has insane potential with One For All, so instead of hiding him, he starts preparing him early for stronger fights ahead. Now we move into the training and secret alive arc, so let's get right into it. So Gojo starts thinking about what just happened. Yuji almost lost that fight, and if he did not have that extra power, he could have died back there with Megumi and Nobara. So Gojo decides Yuji needs to get stronger right now, but this is different from the original timeline since Yuji never dies. So there is no secret training while everyone thinks he is gone. Instead, Gojo trains Yuji directly from the start. Yuji still learns how to use cursed energy like normal. Gojo teaches him how to control it, how to flow it through his body, and how to fight better with it. But at the same time, Gojo notices something else. With his 6 eyes, he can see that Yuji has another power inside him, something separate from cursed energy. It feels like multiple powers stacked together. Gojo does not fully understand what One For All is and does not know about the different abilities inside it, but he can tell there is more there, so instead of ignoring it, he pushes Yuji to start using it more. Before this training, Yuji could already use around 10 to 20% of One For All safely, which already made him way faster and stronger than everyone else at his level, and his control was naturally better than Midoriya at the start. During training, Yuji keeps improving and starts learning how to use it more like a full-time boost, similar to full cowling, keeping the power active at around 15 to 20% without damaging his body, while combining it with cursed energy to make his attacks even stronger. Power flowing through his body instead of just using it in short bursts. After this training, Yuji can push closer to around 35 to 40% of One For All in short bursts, but for longer periods, he stays around 20 to 25%, avoid damaging his body. This gives him a huge increase in speed more than anything, making him way faster in fights while also boosting his punching power a lot. At the same time, Gojo keeps pushing his cursed energy training, making sure Yuji can balance both powers together, and by the end of this training, Yuji is much faster, stronger, and way more controlled than before. Now we move into the V's Mahito and Junpei arc. Most of this arc plays out the same at the start. Yuji meets Junpei and they build a bond talking about life and everything going on, and Yuji still wants to save him. The main difference here is Yuji himself. After training, he can use around 35 to 40% of One For All in short bursts and hold around 20 to 25% with full cowling, making him way faster and stronger than before. When Mahito shows up and everything goes wrong with Junpei, Yuji gets angry and goes straight at him. This time, his speed is on a whole different level. Mahito struggles to keep up at first, and Yuji lands way more hits early on. Even then, Mahito is still dangerous because of his ability, so Yuji fights smarter, using controlled bursts of One For All to keep pressure without completely destroying his own body. Nanami still joins the fight, and together they push Mahito back harder than before. At the end of the fight, Yuji is furious. He stops holding back and pushes past his limit, forcing One For All up to around 45 to 50% for a single attack. The strain immediately starts damaging his body, but he still throws a full power punch straight at Mahito. The hit is so strong, it blasts Mahito away and heavily damages his body, but not enough to fully destroy him. Mahito splits himself into many small pieces and escapes, barely surviving the attack. Now we move into the Kyoto Goodwill event arc. Before the event starts, the Kyoto students already have a plan to take Yuji out because he is Sukuna's vessel. At the same time, the Tokyo students like Maki and Panda do not really know Yuji that well yet, but they have heard rumors about. They hear that he has some kind of crazy power on top of Sukuna, something that boosts his strength and speed way beyond normal. Maki does not fully believe it at first, but she is interested. Panda is more curious and thinks it might be real based on how Gojo talks about him. Nobara and Megumi already know Yuji is strong, but even they have not seen his full power yet. When they are all talking before the event, Yuji still says that he thinks he can beat Todo. This surprises them because Todo is one of the strongest students there, but Yuji is confident now after his training. Once the event begins, Yuji is using around 30 to 35% of One For All with full cowling, stacked with his natural strength and cursed energy, making him way faster than before. The Kyoto team tries to follow their plan, but Yuji is already hard to deal with. Yuji runs into Todo and their moment still happens. Yuji answers his question and Todo instantly accepts him and calls him his brother. But instead of just fighting right away, Todo becomes really interested in Yuji's power. He can tell that Yuji has something special, something different from cursed energy. So instead of just going all out, Todo starts helping Yuji mid-fight, almost like training him. He watches how Yuji uses One For All, how he moves with full cowling, and pushes him to get better in the middle of battle. At the same time, everyone else is fighting across the area. Meki, Panda, Nobara, and Megumi are all dealing with their own fights while things start to get more intense. Then everything changes when the disaster after curses show up. The event turns into a real fight. Maki and Megumi try to fight them but get badly hurt and are forced out. Now it turns into Yuji and Todo fighting together, with Yuji's speed from full cowling staying around 30 to 35%, so he does not destroy his body, and Todo's ability, they start pushing back hard. Yuji keeps moving at high speed, landing stronger hits and getting more used to that level of power, while Todo supports and creates openings. During this fight, Yuji starts landing black flashes more consistently, and because of One for All boosting his physical power, each black flash hits even harder than before. This helps him grow faster mid-battle, just like in the original, but now at a higher level. Before the fight can fully finish, Gojo does not actually step in here. Instead, the situation gets interrupted like in the original, and the focus shifts away before anything is fully resolved, keeping things consistent with the timeline. Now we move into the death painting arc, and honestly not much changes here, so we can go through this pretty quickly. Yuji, Nobara, and Megumi still go on the mission involving the death painting wombs, and everything starts off pretty similar. The fights still happen mostly the same, but the main difference is Yuji's strength. With around 30 to 35% of One for All in full cowling, and pushing up to around 40% in short bursts, he is way faster and hits much harder than before, so he keeps up easily and puts more pressure on the enemies. Nobara still has her big moment in this arc, and her fight plays out very similar, showing how strong she really is. Yuji backs her up, and with his speed and power, the fights feel more controlled on their side. Megumi still does his part as well, and the teamwork between all three stays strong, but overall, Yuji's boost just makes things go smoother and faster. The main outcome of the arc stays the same. Now we move into the Shibuya Incident arc, and we're gonna skim through this up to the big fights. Everything still starts the same. The plan happens, Gojo shows up, fights, and still ends up getting sealed. That part does not change, and now everything starts going bad for the sorcerers. Yuji is moving through Shibuya, and now with around 35 to 40% of One for All in full cowling, and only pushing up to around 45 to 50% in short bursts, he is way faster and stronger than before. He is clearing through curses easier and keeping up with everything going on around him, but he is still not at a level where he can just handle everything by himself. Then we get to the Choso fight. This is where things change. At first, Choso's blood manipulation is hard to deal with. His attacks are fast, hard to read, and come from different angles. But during the fight, Yuji pushes himself and unlocks a new ability from One for All. Similar to how Deku unlocked his powers mid-fight, Yuji unlocks Danger Sense. Because of how fast and unpredictable Choso's attacks are, Yuji's body reacts and starts warning him of incoming danger. This gives him a big advantage. Now he can react to Choso's attacks much easier and move around them, but it is still not perfect and takes focus to use properly. With Danger Sense and around 40 to 45% full cowling, Yuji starts doing much better in the fight. His speed is higher, his reactions are sharper, and he lands more hits, but Choso is still extremely dangerous and adapts to Yuji's movements. Instead of completely winning, Yuji pushes Choso to the edge, leaving him heavily injured, but Yuji is also badly hurt by the end of the fight, making it more of a draw than a clean win. After that, Yuji moves forward and reaches Dagon's domain. Instead of Toji entering, Yuji sees the opening Megumi creates and jumps in himself. Inside the domain, Yuji is already a strong matchup. With his speed, power, and now Danger Sense, he can react to attacks much better and help support the others inside. Yuji fights inside the domain alongside the others, using his speed to move around attacks and land hits, helping turn the fight, but the domain is still overwhelming and they are struggling to survive. But then Toji still shows up like in the original. Instead of ignoring everyone, Toji's instincts lock onto the strongest presence, and he ends up focusing on Dagon first, just like in the original, quickly overwhelming him. After Dagon is taken out, Toji then turns his attention to the others, including Yuji. Yuji and Toji start clashing, and this becomes one of the hardest fights Yuji has faced. Even with around 45 to 50% bursts of One for All and Danger Sense, Toji is still extremely dangerous and much more experienced in combat. Yuji gets pushed close to his limit and takes heavy damage until the fight is interrupted and shifts away like in the original timeline. Then Jogo shows up and burns everything around them. Maki gets badly hurt here, and Yuji sees this, which makes things even more personal for him. This still leads into Sukuna's takeover, because Yuji is already exhausted and heavily damaged from the previous fight, making him vulnerable. Sukuna takes over, and his rampage still happens. This part does not change, because no matter how strong Yuji is, Sukuna is still on a completely different level and takes control once the conditions are met. After Sukuna's rampage ends, Yuji regains control, completely broken mentally from what just happened, just like in the original. From there, Yuji eventually runs into Mahito. Todo still shows up, and now the three of them fight together. Yuji is stronger here, using around 40 to 45% full cowling, with Danger Sense helping him react faster. But Mahito has also evolved and is more dangerous than before. With Todo's support and Yuji's improved speed and power, they push Mahito harder than in the original, but it is still a difficult fight. Yuji lands multiple black flags flashes stacking with one for all, and this is what finally allows him to overwhelm Mahito and defeat him. This ends the Shibuya Incident arc, but it does not go smoothly. Even though Yuji is stronger and performs better in fights, Sukuna's rampage still happens, people are still lost, and Yuji is left dealing with the consequences of everything that happened. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm not gonna finish the full story yet, because we still have about 2 arcs left, and JJK is a really long story, so I don't want to rush everything into one video. If this video gets around 1,000 likes, I'll definitely make a part 2. Let me know how I did down below, and make sure to like and subscribe. Also, go check out my other video, What If Yuji Had Gojo's Powers? Because that one is just as good as this one.